We are live. Matt Smith is out on paternity leave with baby number 7. And today, honored to have Larry Goldberg here of the Maverick Mind Podcast, serial entrepreneur for Sapiens Decisions, and Tesla Larry on X. We're going to talk about the Dogefather. We're going to talk about FAFO, Tesla, a patent that they had. I think it'd be good to talk a little bit about the earnings call too.
Yeah, I think the earnings call is where we should start because that's about the beginning of this phase of news. I have to say that I thought, one of the best earnings calls we've had almost ever. I always say, depends which Elon Musk turns up. And boy, did we get a really strong, excited, focused, committed Elon Musk. We are definitely at the point where we're talking about robotaxi, autonomous vehicles, and Optimus. And so, we've definitely turned the corner. This company is looking forward, and it's looking forward at a completely new future. So it was pretty exciting call.
I agree with you, Larry. I think what we got is like a pulling toward the present of autonomy, just some more certainty that it's going to happen. That'll be starting in Austin in June. So it's more specificity. And also that more certainty around the timeline around Optimus and them starting production this year, and just more confidence around Optimus.
I think on Optimus, we should be a little bit more specific. They're definitely in production with Optimus version 2, and that they expect to have a fair number of those in the factories by the end of the year, and then starting production of Model 3 next year and going towards mass production and starting to market it next year. So we get a sense of the timeline. I think version 3 is the first true mass production model. I think version 3 is the mass production. Version 2 is they're still somewhat in hand production. They're not going to mass production because I don't think they've dialed in the full design yet. So I thought it was very exciting. And in terms of pricing, you and I have discussed this in the past. I think there's no doubt that the early version 2 hand production is going to be a couple of $100,000 internal cost. And I think we'll see something like $100,000 at their cost of version 3 in the early production. That's my ballpark and my thinking, just doing scratch pad calculations.
Yeah. And one bullish thing that they said on the call, I believe, was how they're thinking about pricing. And they said they would price it at the market. So essentially like an auction. So if you want to have the first one, it might even be a blind auction, like, okay, how much you want to pay for it? And there's going to be some people that are going to be willing to pay $1 million for the first one, maybe. That might be overpaying a little bit. But
I think it's more like a negotiation over profit sharing, or in terms of the early years of production. So I think it's going to be a partnership, and the partnership is not just going to be the first purchase. It's going to be the long-term relationship. So I don't think Tesla's going to try and make billions of dollars of the first implementation. I think they're going to be looking at the long-term implications of the relationship with the client. So that would be my approach to it.
Yeah. And even when Matt and I model this out, and you did a great model on Farzad's channel, the first year at best is going to be a push for Tesla with Optimus. Yeah.
At best.
Yeah. But once they begin to scale it up, then they'll be able to do well from that. Let's talk a little bit about some things that Elon disclosed that Wall Street didn't ask about whatsoever. And the first big one was that they were battery pack constrained. That's Elon is basically putting his thumb on what the biggest constraint is in the business, and analysts failed to ask about it on the call. What do you think is the constraint at the battery level, Larry, if you were to speculate?
I think it's just getting enough cells. It's just manufacturing enough cells. Both factories, in addition to Tesla's own factory, the other factories that they're looking for supply from are both ramping up. We know that battery factories take a long time to ramp up. Unless you're in China, for some reason, Chinese seem to ramp their factories much faster, but it just takes that amount of time to dial in those machines. It's a very precise and exact and demanding process.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just takes a long time to get those machines dialed in, particularly if they're going to do the dry cell production
The dry
method.
cathode, yeah.
Yeah, and so we saw that Tesla took 1.5 years, maybe even 2 years to dial that in. And so it doesn't surprise me that the other factories are taking that time to do it. So that's what I think is the biggest constraint.
Yeah. And Tesla also had a recent patent that they got for the dry, LFP cathode. So they didn't ask about that either. It would have been great to get a little overview of what all Tesla is doing with batteries and lithium. They're refining in Corpus Christi. They have a cathode building in Texas. We don't know. They're at least at a pilot scale now. They might be going into production at that plant in Giga, Texas. I doubt they're at a lab scale with this whole LFP thing.
We haven't had any visibility into and I tweeted out to Elon, can we have a battery day? That would be, I think, this is the time, sometime this year, we would like to have a battery day to get some visibility. If they're really battery constrained, that would be, I imagine that is the 4680s. And then maybe they can't import the LFP battery, and they can't build them sufficiently fast. So there's so many unknowns and so many uncertainties. It would be really valuable for us to get a battery day at this point and get some sense of where they are.
So version 13, Larry, I'm curious how it is for you. For me, it's really good. Sometimes I was just complaining my Cybertruck occasionally runs over curbs, but I just did that this morning as a human driver. I was meat driving and I ran over a curb and I wasn't in a parking lot, so I didn't have that as an excuse either. I'm curious, has Tesla solved the Larry Goldberg tricky thing for you, and how has it been for you?
Well, I've got the Cybertruck with the latest Cybertruck release, and I've got one of my Model 3s with the latest release, 3.6. I will tell you, 3.6 is about as perfect as we've seen. It is better than anything we've driven yet, including 13.3, .2, and .5. It really is good. And I just did this trip to Florida, 2,000-mile trip from North Carolina to South Florida and back. Brilliant performance. I had no safety interventions from here to there and back. I had a few very hairy safety moments where I maybe would have in the past intervened, which I probably would have intervened in the past, but didn't. I just let the car figure it out, and it did. Came close to an intervention, but intervention free. Now, on the Cybertruck, that's not the case. On the Cybertruck, I didn't take the Cybertruck down because they changed out my inverter. At the same time, I had some fixes made to some, curb damage that I did, that the car did by itself. You said you did yours. The FSD did it for me.
Yeah.
So it was $100 or $130 actually, exactly. But anyway, bottom line is the Cybertruck is still awaiting the latest release. I'm not taking it. I'm going tomorrow to Charlotte, a couple of 100-mile trip, and I'm going to take the 3 as a result. So I'm very happy with the 13.6 dot something dot six. I lost track of all of these. And so I'm fairly confident that they'll hold their June date. Look, it may slip a month or two or three even, but this year I feel that they're going to achieve, autonomy.
Yeah, unsupervised.
Unsupervised, and they're going to start a service. Whether they'll have to have safety drivers required by Austin, time will tell. What do you think about all the action around Doge?
Yeah, let's talk about the Dogefather, Elon Musk and Doge. A big win for them as far as stopping spending at the U.S. aid agency. Go ahead, Larry.
There's a huge pushback from the Democratic Party, huge pushback. I don't think I've seen anything quite as active as this for a long time. I can't remember when last they got as exercised as they are now. Maybe the Russia. I think that's probably equivalent. And one wonders why they're so excited about it all. When you look at I've seen some of the diagrams of the grants, from the waterfall grants from one nonprofit to another nonprofit to another nonprofit, all down to a single nonprofit. This doesn't look good. They may have turned up something really serious. And by the Democratic response, it looks to me like they're touching a very important vein. So this story is not being told yet. This story is just developing. We have to see where it goes.
Yeah, so I'll make a confession here. I probably shouldn't say this, but I tend to lean libertarian. I'm not like a radical libertarian. So I'm more of a fiscal conservative. So I like that they're looking at reducing government spending. And the basic idea is if it's not law, that they're going to look to cut the program potentially, depending on what it is. The entitlements they're going to leave alone. They're going to look at fraud and entitlements. And I think Doge is only just beginning. So I think there's more to come. I'd say where I'm going to stay a little skeptical for now is that politicians in general, they love to be toll keepers. So they love to threaten various things. Like a couple of years ago, they threatened to tax Roth accounts, which would have been like a big pain for Peter Thiel, who cheated with his Roth and all this. They'll threaten things and they'll get people to lobby, and then they don't do it. And this is a game that they play where they get money for doing that, but also they'll essentially take a penny from a business and then award them $1 of federal money per penny that was given. And sometimes it's even better. It's like maybe a tenth of a penny gets $1.
All of that.
I don't think money's out of politics, period. I'm not like that hopeful.
All of that's politics as usual. But if you look at the latest stuff coming from these guys who are doing this investigation to US aid, and by the way, full confession, in 1964, I came into the United States under an exchange program, and I lived in the house of the guy who actually shepherded the USAID bill through Kennedy's White House, for Kennedy, through Congress. And so I got to see the inside of the first AID bill, which later became this agency, by law. Well, this agency is granting these gigantic amounts of money, small in the federal dollar universe, but it adds up. A couple of $100 billion here and a couple of $100 billion there, and soon it's real money. But the grants that I saw, the first publication of that this team produced, is like multiple grants to multiple different nonprofits, who then funnel it to other nonprofits, who then funnel it to other nonprofits, who funnel it to
like
other
shell companies.
And it all comes down to this one final big nonprofit. And it's hundreds of billions of dollars, not hundreds of millions, it's hundreds of billions of dollars into the hands of a single nonprofit from one to the other. It stinks to high heaven to me. We'll see where it comes, what they discover. But the extreme reaction to it, that sounds like something's happening.
Yeah, so I know we're being a little political, but this is the hot button topic right now.
This is not political to me. This is not political. I could care less about AID. So I have my own view on my political views on AID, but this, it looks to me like serious malfeasance.
Well, so I was about to talk about Chuck Schumer. Schumer's come out and saying that what's being done with Doge is illegal, but the president is allowed to have advisors that are not in the government. So that's a thing that's allowed, that's legal. The other thing is that the president has certain executive powers. There's the three branches of power in the United States. There's the executive, the judicial, and the Congress. And so those systems of power are set up, and the president does have power, and they can get rid of things that are not law. They have some power of the purse. Congress doesn't have complete power over the purse. They have a great deal amount of power, but there's a lot of discretion that the president has. So Schumer has come out and said that Elon advising Trump and Trump approving these changes is illegal, and it's actually not illegal. Schumer's allowed to lie. Lying is legal in the United States. It's legal in most countries, but it's legal in the United States. And I believe Schumer is lying about this, and that what's happening with Doge is legal. People are freaking out because Elon's the richest person in the country, and he's making these changes, or he's helping advise Trump to make these changes. I think it's remarkable how quickly they've acted. You saw like the whole user interface they have for looking where this money goes and charting it out on a flow chart, and it pops up this big like 3 red flames. Okay, if this is over, I don't know what the threshold is, but if it's over 10 million, it gets 3 red flames, and let's flag that and put that on the list. Any more thoughts here, Larry?
Yeah, I'm not a lawyer, and so I don't know what's legal or not legal, but I do know this, that the president has the leverage in that he has control of the executive branch, and Congress does not. And it's going to be very tough for Congress to find a way to stop this.